Well, kia ora everyone. Yeah, thanks for tuning in tonight. Not sure what time of the day it is for everyone. But yeah, I hope you all had a good day, like just as good as these guys in that first photo here, with amazing views of Aoraki Mount Cook. Um, yeah, like I said, today is all about hiking in New Zealand. We do a lot of bike tours, but we actually have some really cool hiking itineraries that I'm going to talk about today. So we'll just start off with just general bits about hiking in New Zealand, why it is a great way to explore the country. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the different seasons and the weather in New Zealand. That's probably what we get asked the most, the sort of when's the best time to travel and to do the walk that you want to do and what kind of weather you can expect here. And then we're going to talk about the four different trips we have on the South Island of New Zealand. So the first one is the best of the Southern Alps trek. That's probably our most popular hiking trip, and that one's for everyone who really likes the big mountains, the really big views, who likes a bit of a challenge and some steep hikes. The second one is the Milford, Hollyford, and Stewart Island Trails trip. That one's for everyone who really likes remote places, really like the wilderness, and also for everyone who likes the wildlife and especially the bird life in New Zealand. And then we have the Queen Charlotte and the Abel Tasman trip. I just talked about it a little bit. That's the area there I used to live in, so that one's definitely quite close to my heart, but it's also different to the other ones because it's in the upper part of the South Island. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is the Great Hikes and Glaciers of New Zealand trip. So that one's definitely our longest hiking itinerary. It's 12 days, and that one has really everything. Like it has really amazing hikes, rainforests, oceans. There's some amazing kayak options in this trip as well. So yeah, I'm going to talk about all these four hikes, and then at the very end, we're going to have a quick Q&A. But if you guys have any questions anywhere in between, just feel free to just fire away at any time, really. Right. So hiking in New Zealand, I think is probably one of the best ways to see the country, just because it is a slow way of traveling, which means you can see kind of all the details, really, all the birds in the forests. You might see a dolphin popping its head out of the ocean. But it's also a great way to see just the landscape that we have here. So New Zealand sitting right on top of two colliding plate tectonics, which means that we have these really steep mountains that you see in that photo here. But we also have that super unique wildlife. So New Zealand broke away from the rest of the world, or that supercontinent, 85 million years ago. So we have so many animals or plants that are very unique to New Zealand that you can't see anywhere else. And hiking is a great way to see that all. But you're also going to have a guide with you who knows a lot about the history of New Zealand. So we have a super rich Māori culture in New Zealand, and it's super interesting to see that we're actually going to walk the same ways that the early Māori were walking when they were looking for greenstone or hunting moas. And there's also a lot of history about the early explorers that came here from Europe. Yeah, but unlike all the early explorers, we don't have to be roughing it in tents on our trips. We're all going to have a comfortable bed waiting for us after a long day hiking. So all of our trips we'll mostly stay in hotels, but there's going to be the occasional night where we stay in a lodge, or there's a trip where you're going to stay overnight on a boat, and there's another trip where you're actually going to stay in a remote sort of backcountry hut. But generally, it's all very comfortable, nice places, because I think that's what it's all about when you're going on a longer hiking trip, that you just get the chance to kind of relax, to slow down, to connect with the nature, with yourself, but also with the other people in your group. I think it's always the best kind of feeling when you're going with a group of strangers and you're telling them your whole life story, and then at the end of the week it's more like a group of friends, really. So our trips are relatively small. Our maximum number is 14 people on a hiking trip. So it's a nice small groups, and it's definitely great conversation on the hiking trips that we do, because it is nice to just keep chatting away for a 5 or 6 hour hike. Um, so this one here is just about the seasons and the weather you can expect here in New Zealand. So we get asked quite often what's the best time to go on a hike here. So our trips run from sort of October until April. Um, and the early season is anywhere sort of October, November, and the late season's April. I think there is no really like good or bad time to do a trip. It just comes down to your personal preference. So the advantage of the early or the late season is that you get a bit milder temperatures, and you get these beautiful snow-capped mountains. You've got these nice crisp mornings, and it's obviously a bit more a bit quieter in general on the treks. Whereas if you come here in the sort of peak summer months and January, February, you get to go and swim in the lakes or the rivers or in the ocean after a long hiking day. So there's just your personal preference, really. Um, and then the other thing we probably get asked a lot is what kind of weather you can expect, and that's always a very hard question to answer, because you can really expect to have all 4 seasons in a day. So New Zealand, just from where we are in the world, we're this really tiny island in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the Pacific. So all the weather that comes through kind of hits us at full force. So anything can happen in a day, really. And I think it's all in New Zealand, it's all about embracing this different weather. Like all the weather kind of creates and shapes the landscapes that we get here. And there's obviously no rainforest without rain. And for those of you who want to go to Milford Sound, for example, I always think the best days in Milford Sound is when it's been raining quite a lot, because that's when you get all these waterfalls on the side of the mountains. So yeah, there's no bad weather really, just bad gear, and we'll definitely make sure that we let you guys know what's the best gear to bring, what you need to bring, what kind of conditions you can expect. And like I said before, you're always going to have a guide with you, and they're obviously going to check the weather every night and kind of make a call on that. So if at any day we can't go on the hike that we were planning on, your guides will always come up with an alternative that is a better or safer option. Right. And this is already our first trip. So this one is the best of the Southern Alps trip. So that one is 7 days long, and it starts in Christchurch, where Adventure South is based, and you're going to finish in Queenstown. Excuse me. Um, this trip's graded moderate to challenging, and just if you're wondering, so we'll grade all of our trips on our website between 1 and 5. And that's just a great tool to kind of for you to figure out which trips for you. So if you're kind of exploring that, grading is explained in more detail on for every itinerary. So it kind of lets you know how long the hikes on this trail are, if they are marked or not, how much elevation it entails. So this one here is grade 3, so it's moderate to challenging, which means you can expect some full day hikes with some decent elevation gain. I think on this trip it's up to 700 meters of elevation gain. And there's definitely some steep and rocky sections, but also some very rewarding views on this one. We're going to see a couple of photos in a minute. But what makes this trip, I think, especially, or what is a real highlight of this trip, are the first 2 nights, where you get to spend 2 nights in a backcountry hut. I think this is probably a very like true Kiwi experience, to stay in one of these backcountry huts. There may not be the most luxurious things, but it's just a really unique experience. So there's a network of almost 1,000 of these backcountry huts in New Zealand. And they are always in very special, very remote places. And it's just a great chance to kind of get away from the hustle and bustle in the city, and you're just going to be there, no phone reception, and just be in nature and with the other people in your group. So you're going to share kind of it's a shared sleeping area and then a shared lounge area as well. And you guides are going to be cooking in that hut for you guys. And there's just an amazing area around the hut. It sits right in the mountains. So that's a really cool special highlight of this trip, that backcountry hut stay. And then you get 2 nights in the Aoraki Mount Cook National Park. This is home to our tallest mountain. And then the next 2 nights, you're going to stay in Wanaka, which is right at the doorstep of the Mount Aspiring National Park, which is really famous for all its glaciers and snow-capped mountains. And then the trip finishes, like I said before, in Queenstown, and there's another really great hike that we're going to do at the end of this one. A really rewarding, great views hike. So this trip, we have 6 departures every year, just because it's a very popular one, and it goes from October through to March. And again, it's kind of your personal preference if you want to go to sort of in the milder temperatures, if you prefer that kind of hiking, or in peak summer. And here's some impressions for you guys for that hike. So in the top left here, you see these 3 people. They're just on their way to the Rex Simpson backcountry hut. And the other 3 photos are just some photos from the Mount Cook National Park. So lots of glaciers, lots of mountains, some really big views. Same again, this one, that photo in the top right was probably taken in that early season I mentioned. So there's lots of snow around still. And in the bottom here is a very different scenery that's in Queenstown. Right, this is hike number 2. This is the Milford, Hollyford, and Stewart Island trip. So this is for everyone who's really looking for an off the beaten track remote experience. This is probably as remote as it can get. So that one's also 7 days, and it starts and finishes in Queenstown. That one is not as challenging as the Best of Southern Alps trip, but there's definitely some fitness required. And there's one day in here where you kind of committed to a bit of a longer day, just because there's no other way to access it. But other than that, it's quite definitely achievable, nice walking, a bit less elevation gain. So this trip pretty much starts with you going down all the way to Stewart Island, which is south of the South Island. And it's probably one of the most remote places you can go. It has a very small, I think it's just over 500 is the population of Stewart Island, and it's very famous for its like rugged coastline. The rainforest there is pretty amazing, but what Stewart Island is probably most known for is the possibility to see a kiwi in the wild. So not the people, but the bird. If you're interested in the bird life, Stewart Island is definitely the place to go. So you have a couple of days there, and then when you come back, you going to Milford Sound, which you can see here in the photo. And it just gets better and better from here. So from Milford Sound, you're going to jump into a helicopter and go to an even more remote place, to Martins Bay. This is a private lodge where you're going to stay a night. That's, again, only accessible by either helicopter or by walking there. So the next morning, you're going to get up, jump into a jet boat, and then walk out from there. So that's that longer day of hiking on day 6. And then you're gonna come back out, do a bit of more hiking in the Fiordland National Park, and then return to Queenstown. So that departure, we only have 3 every year in December through to March, just because that trip is very far down south. So it's definitely good to do that in the warmer months. Yeah, again, there's some photos here that on the left side, that's all Stewart Island. That's the Fiordland National Park. That's the biggest of our 30 national parks here in the top right, and then the Hollyford Valley at the bottom here. Yeah, and that's sort of the hiking you can expect. New Zealand's very famous for its swing bridges. That's one example here on the left. All right. And this is a very different scenery now. So this is the Queen Charlotte and Abel Tasman trip. So that one, like I said earlier, that's in a very different part of the country compared to the other three. So all the other three hikes start sort of below Christchurch, whereas this one is all in the northern bit of the South Island. So again, it's a 7-day trip, just like the other two, but this one starts and finishes in Christchurch. Um, this one is a grade one, so that's a really nice, cruisy, very relaxing week. It's mostly sort of half days, anything between sort of 3 and 5 hours of hiking in a day. And it's all on really nice form track. There's no huge elevation gain or unexpected. There's definitely some hills in that one as well. And there is one harder option if you want to take that one on the last day. But on this trip, same as all the other ones, it's really nice that most of the time you have different options. Like if you're someone that likes to push themselves, you can always have a longer or steeper option. And if you want to take it easy, there's lots of options for that too. So on this itinerary, I think the highlights of this one is one, the incredible wildlife. So you're going to do a stop in Kaikoura, and you're also going to the Abel Tasman. Both these places have huge seal colonies. So if you want to see the New Zealand fur seal, this is definitely a great itinerary to do that. And another big highlight of this trip is your stay in the Marlborough Sound. So you're going to stay at a lodge that is only accessible by either water taxi or walking. We're going to do a hike there, and we're going to stay there overnight. And it is just a really peaceful place. You can go for walks from there. You can go kayaking from there. You can go paddleboarding. It's just a really nice place to just relax and spend some time in nature. Um, and then the very last stop on this trip, so you've got the Queen Charlotte Sound, you've got the Abel Tasman National Park, and then at the very end of the trip, you're going to spend a night in the Nelson Lakes National Park, which is a very different scenery. Again, it's mostly dominated by really big lakes, but also very steep mountains. So we're going to do another hike there and then make our way back to Christchurch via the Lewis Pass. And on the way there, we're going to do a cheeky little stop at the hot pools. So if you're gonna, it's a great chance to just like relax your muscles in the hot pools from all the hiking before you go back to Christchurch. It's 4 departures in here. November, January, February, April. November and April are probably a bit cooler. But because this trip's in the northern part, the temperatures are always pretty warm. Definitely warmer than down south. Yeah, so again, and I think that's what I like so much about New Zealand is just all this. The island is not that big, but all the places look very, very different. So if you compare this to the trips we've just been talking about, it's like a very, very different kind of scenery. Lots of fern trees, lots of sandy beaches, turquoise blue water. Right. And now we're already at the last trip for today. So this is our longest itinerary. That's the Great Hikes and Glaciers trip. It's 12 days, and that one just is the full package, really. It starts and finishes in Christchurch. And you are going to make your way to the west coast to start with, to go to this amazing rainforest, do some hiking there. You're going to go to the glaciers. And you also going to do a couple of kayak trips. So one is on the west coast, the other one's in Wanaka. And then you're slowly making your way down south into the Fiordland National Park. And that's probably, yeah, I would say this is the highlight of this trip is the overnight trip in the Milford Sound. So that photo here in the bottom right, this is the boat you'll be staying on. So you're going all the way out into the Sound. The boat will anchor there, And then you get sort of the afternoon to explore. Sometimes they can drop you in a little zodiac to do a walk. You can also choose to kayak or paddleboard or just sit on a deck and read a book. It's completely up to you. Um, you're going to have dinner on that boat. And then if you are not too tired from all the hiking, I'd definitely say go out of your cabin at nighttime, because if you want to see the stars, Milford Sound is a great place to do some stargazing as well. Um, and then after that overnight trip, you're slowly going to make your way back up north again. So you're going to get a day to yourself in Queenstown to just relax and recover. And then you have 2 days in Mount Cook National Park before we go back to Christchurch. Yeah, so this trip has it all. Like, really, it's a lot of different kind of walking on that trip. There's some short walks, there's some really big days of hiking, and like I said before, there's the option to do longer hikes if you're keen for some more challenging options. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the four hikes. We had a couple of times this year that people are combining the hikes just to see the different sceneries, different options. But I'm in the sales team with a couple of great colleagues, so if anyone has any questions, we're always happy to answer any questions you have, obviously. But yeah, if you have any questions tonight that you want to ask, I'll do yeah, my very best to answer them.
Thank you so, so much, Leah. That was probably the best webinar I've ever seen.
Oh,
Very, no,
that's
amazing detail and yeah, great insight, great knowledge. If you go to the next slide, we'll just see a couple of photos of the great
oh yeah.
hikes and glaciers.
Oh yeah.
That's right. And then I think there's some questions there on the screen we might be able to go through as I think there's our most common questions asked. Yeah, could you be able to give us some insight into those?
Yeah, definitely. So, in terms of yeah, demographic, we've got people of all ages, really, especially on the hiking trips. But I'd say it's sort of between 40s to 70s is probably the typical demographic on the in the groups, but it can be really all different ages. Um, that's probably a very important one about the downtime, because there is, I think, something really important on the hiking trips. The longer itinerary, and I think there's another one where you have a full day to yourself, but in all the trips, really will make sure that in the afternoons, there's always that time for yourself. So if you want to relax with a book or just have some time to yourself, that's definitely built into all that trip. So there's no trip really where you hike all the way through to dinner. Um, we do get a lot of solo travelers. I think it's probably almost 50-50 these days, so that is not a problem. And if you are traveling by yourself, you can choose if you want to, if you're happy to share a room with another solo traveler of the same gender, or if you would prefer to have your own room, and then you can book a single supplement to make sure that you've got the room to yourself. Um, we do offer private group trips, for sure. So we get this quite often, that if you have a group of friends or want to travel with your family, we definitely run private trips. And that obviously also means that we can kind of cater to you specifically if you want to change anything in the itinerary. That's definitely possible on a private trip. Yeah, and the most popular tour, like I said, it's hiking wise. We do get a lot of people on the Best of Southern Alps trip, just because it has all these amazing views and you get to go to the backcountry hut. But yeah, if you would ask me what my favorite trip is, I probably couldn't tell you, just because they're all so different and they all have their own highlights. So it really just depends on what you want to see and what you are most interested in when coming to New Zealand, what your personal interest is, really.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, lovely. Are there any questions from our anyone in the crowd? If not, I do have a final question to ask Leah. Thank you so much for spending your night tonight with us too. It's very nice of you guys. Okay, my question was, there's none from the crowd, was could you be able to go through each of the four trips really quickly and think of your ideal, kind of finish off the sentence, this trip is perfect for yada yada. So
Yeah, I
if
can
you go
pick.
back and just quickly go through each one and you think
Yeah.
back
Okay.
to,
So,
yes, we've got these four, take it away.
right. Let's say the best of the Southern Alps trek. This is good for everyone who wants to have big views, wants to see big mountains, and likes the challenge of climbing up a hill. The Milford, Hollyford, and Stewart Island, that one's for everyone who likes remote places, and who's interested in New Zealand bird life. That photo on the top right, this is Martin's Bay. That is where that lodge is, that you're going to be staying at. So there's not a lot of houses or anything around really, as you can see. So that's the definitely for the people that enjoy remote places. The Queen Charlotte and Abel Tasman is for everyone who likes beaches, who likes marine wildlife. You also get to go to a couple of predator-free islands. So this is wildlife, beaches, fern trees. That's the one for you. And the last one is for everyone who wants to see all of it, I think, who wants to see the most variety and who also likes kind of having a day off from walking and jumping into a kayak, because that's definitely the special thing about this one is that you get a couple of days paddling instead of hiking.
Great insight. Thank you so, so much, Leah. We might wrap it up there. And thanks for those joining us again on this great evening. This webinar will be live on, and we'll send an email out to everyone with the replay. So thanks again for joining us, and thank you so, so much for
Thank you,
Leah
guys.
for such an insightful webinar tonight.